maybe I'll jump straight into a technically tricky point. So the thing that confused me a bit, maybe just for the sake of the video, I'll jump in one of these portals and display its private server ID. So these pockets, these private servers that are created through TeleportService, they're distinguished from ordinary private servers in code by the fact that any kind of private server, they're both private servers. These that are reserved through TeleportService and the ones that are made through the web page, they're both private servers and they have a private server ID. However, the ones made through the web page have a private server owner ID as well, but these don't.
What do you mean created through the web page?
If you reserve a server through the web page, through Roblox.com.
I didn't know you could do that.
How else would you make a private server? I guess. Oh, you're just used to doing it this way.
Yeah, like in code.
Right. Yeah, so if you navigate to the... might as well do it. So you can go here, and if it's possible, you can reserve a private server.
Oh, I thought those were called VIP servers.
They used to be. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that language is still in some of the web pages, but I think for now the official terminology is private server.
Gotcha.
Okay, so if I go to the console here, excuse the cow outside moving there. Okay, so that's the private server ID. I think it's private server owner ID. Yeah, that's just 0. So that would be your ID if you had made a private server through the web page, but that doesn't exist here.
Oh.
So that's how you can distinguish where you are. That's used, for example, in the metaboard code to adjust the way that the keys are made for boards, because the way I had it before, so these private servers that you can make that have boards in them through metauni.org, for example, the keys for the boards, when they're stored to the data store, make use of the owner ID for the private server as part of the key, in order that otherwise, if it was just off the place ID, then two people with two different private servers making use of the same experience, they'd made separate copies of it, the boards would be linked in their key unless it was tied specifically to something unique to that private server.
Okay.
So in the metaboard code, I use the owner ID, but that can't be done in these reserved servers made through TeleportService. So then I had to figure out what else to use. The problem is this private server ID is too long for a key, because you only have 50 characters in a data store. So we either hash this down to a shorter key or do something else. The question is here how to identify pockets, right? So a pocket, it has a template. This world that I'm in right now is, let's say, the template. So that's some experience that has some place ID. To access this particular copy of that place through TeleportService, you provide both the place ID and an access code, right, which is returned when you reserve the server. So those two pieces of data are sufficient to enter the server, but the access code is also, I don't actually know.
Okay, so there are like 4 identifiers here. There's private server ID, private server owner ID, place ID, and then an access code?
Right. I think I thought I made it. Yeah.
And when you... Okay, so this is a private server, and do you create this by calling reserve server?
That's right, yeah. I'll go and look at the code.
Okay.
Right. So this is where that thing gets created. So then the question is, how does this server, once you join it, know its identity? It's actually a bit of a tricky point,
okay.
right? It can access its place ID and its private server ID, but first of all, that's not sufficient to join it. You need the access code, but the server doesn't know the access code. There's no API for it to know that. So that's the main problem that needed to be solved here, and I'll explain what I did, but I'm not sure it's by any means the sort of smartest thing to do, but I think this is a key thing that needs to be solved for the story in general. I did make some objects in the world which remembered the access code, so we can have a look what it looks like, but now I'm struggling to find it a bit. Just give me a second. Oh no. Yeah, alright. So this is a so what happens when you join one of these pockets, these private servers, is that actually the player who joins it passes along all the information that the pocket needs to know about its own identity.
Oh my god.
So this is what's passed. Wait. No. Where's the actual teleport? Right, so there are teleport options. So this is what actually puts you into the pocket. Teleport options has teleport data in it. Teleport data. This code runs all the portals, not just the ones that do pockets. So in general, it just passes along where you came from, the place ID and job ID of the server where you originated in the teleport. But if you walk into one of these portals that's going to open a pocket, it attaches a whole lot more information. It tells you this is just the particular portal that you came from. That's how you can return to it when you exit the pocket. This I'll explain in a second.
Okay.
It passes along the access code that is necessary to get into that private server. That's required because if you go deeper in the stack of private servers, so now I'm in one of the pockets. If I go into a sub pocket, so once I'm in there, I want to get back, but to get back, I need to know the access code of this private server that I just left, right? So this portal here needs to actually know the access code of the parent private server, which means that parent needs to know that access code itself in order to be able to pass it along, right? So that's these access codes get passed around with these teleports so that that's possible. This is the data that gets passed along, and Roblox doesn't care what's in that dictionary. This is actually what matters in terms of specifying during the teleport the access code that allows you to both identify the pocket and also to have permission to enter it. Yeah, okay. And the pocket counter, okay, so this is yet another identifier. So maybe I'll run through them again. So this thing has a private server ID, it has a place ID, it has an access code which I don't think there's any way for it to know. It's stored in this meta portal object. Remembers. Okay, maybe I should step back a bit. So, how does this pocket actually remember all this information? How does it know its access code? How does it know its parent? How does it know who created it? So what happens is that there's a player script. This gets put in starter player. So this fires when a player arrives and tells the server the teleport data. So that arrives here. Then the server, if it hasn't, so the first player that arrives, it looks at their teleport data and initializes itself using that data.
Oh, I get it.
And then it remembers, so it stores that. Okay, that's just the first time a player enters, the very first time, not the first time today. And then it stores it to the data store. Now the way that making the portals works... G'day, Matty. Yeah, very good. Could you help with this experiment, Matty, and go and touch one of those pockets to make one? Right. So she touched that and then disappeared into it, right? So the first person to enter a portal is, with some high probability, the person who makes it. And so that's... so Maddie just delivered her teleport data to this pocket. Mine isn't used for anything. It's just the very first person that enters, and then that information is stored to the data store. And from then on, it's looked up from the data store. Except, and here's another hacky bit, how do you look up the information in the data store? You need a key, right? But what's your key? The smart thing to do would be to somehow hash the private server ID, because that is a unique identifier. But I couldn't be bothered figuring out how to hash it down to something less than, I don't know a good hashing library in Lua. So what I did instead was I used the place ID, which it can look up itself, and the pocket counter that's passed by the first player. The pocket counter is just keeps a record globally for this is the parent experience under which all of these pockets live, right? So those are the two pockets. So all the data stores are, of course, shared between all these places. So there's a counter that's just incremented with increment async. So whenever a pocket is opened, so this is the code that actually makes a pocket, it increments an integer that's associated to the place. So at the moment there's two of them, Alpha Cove and Beta Forest, and this is incremented. So then, in addition to identifying one of these private servers by private server ID and access code, well, actually you have several options. You can identify it with place ID plus access code. That's enough to teleport into it. Private server ID is unique on its own, but not that useful. You can't teleport to something just using its private server ID. Or you can use place ID plus this counter. Okay, because every time a pocket is made based off this template, this counter is incremented. And that's what the code does. So when a pocket is initialized, it's using the place ID plus this counter, which is passed by the first person to enter the pocket, which is the creator with high probability. And that is the key that is used to look up in the data store. Now, if everybody leaves here I guess. Oh, Maddie's still here. Maybe I'll make one in here and then exit it. Okay, so right now the code is executing to store to the data store the access code and all sorts of other information that's passed by us into here with the teleport data. If we both now leave here, so we're returning by a teleport back to this previous private server, then that information has already been stored in this server, right? So right now what this server did is it looked up the pocket counter that we were passing in and used that to determine, together with the place ID, which pocket this actually was, and then it looked up all the boards and so on.
How does it handle like the pockets within pockets? Does it just increment the same number?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
The pockets within pockets, they're just created in the same way. The only thing that makes them within a pocket is the fact that they remember the place ID and access code of their parent rather than just the place ID, as you would if you were going back to the top level world. Yeah.
So they're really only like sub pockets in the way that you get to them.
Exactly. Correct. Yeah. So you could have a top level link to them from, say, the Rising Sea.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, go
ahead. There is a hashing library. I think Boat Bomber made it. That could be worth a look.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think that would probably be a good idea. So what's the downside of this?
I don't know if there is.
I guess I was worried that, if people could pass, I guess if they manipulated the data stream, they could pass a different pocket counter when they join the server. But that just means they'd end up in a different pocket. That whatever you pass when you get teleported in is, okay. I guess when you join a pocket, you pass an access code to get to it, right? That access code could be decoupled from this pocket counter, so that it could be. If you somehow malformed that piece of information you're passing to the server, I don't know how paranoid one really wants to be about that, but if somehow pockets were secret, you could get into the wrong one by passing a pocket counter that was not correct, I suppose. But apart from that, I think this is fine. Yeah, somehow using a hash seems like a more grown-up thing to do. But this works for now. Yeah, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say briefly before we maybe hack on a few things.
One thing I looked at, I was testing, so when you return from a portal, it waits a second to place your character in the right spot in front of the portal you had entered. I was testing it out on just a base plate, and I didn't need that wait at all. I'm not sure why that one time we tried it that we did.
let's try it again. Yeah, I don't know. And maybe 1 second is unnecessarily.
Oh, does that start up? No, that should work. Actually, so the code I was using to test it was in starter character, whereas this might be in starter player. I wonder if they run at different times.
What is starter character? Oh, I've never put anything there. I don't even
yes.
know. What's the difference?
So that'll run code every time your character spawns. Basically, all it does is it pastes the scripts inside of your character.
Alright, let's try this. Sorry, Maddie, you're gonna get kicked. Oh, well, maybe not. I guess we're hidden inside a pocket, so yeah, we're fine.
Oh, okay, so that didn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it must be like when the code executes from starter player.
I guess there's also the issue that this script is being moved on server startup from where it is to starter player script. Don't know if that changes anything.
I feel like that would only help because it would like delay when it would run. Maddie suggested maybe check that the character is parented to the data model or workspace.
Okay. So just look for see if workspace is in find first ancestor or something. Or how do I check if something is in the workspace?
Oh, is descendant of. Yeah.
So just, but I want
Maybe just like wait, like do a while loop. Oh, Maddie says use ancestry changed as an event.
What was it? Okay.
Oh, that's actually pretty clever. So Maddie says that inside of the while loop, you could put the ancestry changed event and then just do a wait, ancestry changed : wait.
And then break. Is that what you mean?
So keep what you had,
Oh, okay.
and then yeah. So take that ancestry change, yeah, stick it in there, and then yeah.
Yeah. Like this?
Yeah.
Cool.
But even if the player is in the workspace, I still don't know if that indicates that it's safe to move them.
Guess we'll find out. I did not know about ancestry change. That's cool. Racia. Oh, we have to wait for the boards to finish.
Oh my god. I think Billy was actually looking into that. I know, he was looking into board saving. Ah, oh well.
Wait it is. Too bad. Also punted a bit by just putting the name of the players on those portals rather than bothering to pop up something to ask for a name. I think it's okay.
Oh yeah, I think that works. Ken was very confused when you had him create one, because like once he created a pocket, then you guys went into it. He was walking around, not sure where to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It relies on the identification of this this flame thing as being kind of a symbol of a portal, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that apart from just relying on people getting used to it.
Yeah.
I suppose a portal that somebody has recently gone through could have a different kind of frame or something. Not sure. Ah. Cool. There's no writing in here yet. Yeah, right. Oh, it hadn't loaded in. That was cool. Yeah, I shoved all these things in here very quickly. There's some things that are offset and so on, but I think it's kind of a cool atmosphere. Okay, what are the other... Yeah, that delay in the teleport. 0.1 seems okay. That's better than 1 second.
Oh, did it work?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it worked well.
Oh, okay.
So I think that was maybe not very smart, but I didn't... There was almost no time where I saw myself at the original spawn point, so... Yeah, so...
Oh yeah, that's good.
So that's right. Yeah, it should... tends to teleport people on top of each other, but I guess maybe I can add a little bit of a randomness to the distance. All right. Oh yeah, this is a thing maybe we can discuss. At the moment, I made it so that you can only make one pocket at this top level. I think that seems fair. I do. Okay, the question is how much authority does someone have inside the pocket? A pocket that they create. Yeah, that's right. Thanks for demoing, Maddie. That's right. So you can't. I should be getting a console message, I think, saying user has reached pocket quota. Yeah. But if we go into one that you made, so let's go in here. Then you should be able to make as many as you like in this stack over here. The next thing I was going to implement was admin controls. So at the moment, anybody with scribe permissions can... Wait. I think that should be true. What's the state of... maybe... I don't know what the permission settings are actually in here. Maybe possible that anybody can write on these boards. But in any case, the permissions in here aren't, unless you have admin permissions generally. Well, that's kind of weird looking, isn't it? Even if you don't see it as a player, other people see you teleport. I mean, they see you actually move over there. That's weird. Okay. Why would that happen? It's like a performance optimization to interpolate them or something. Can't be what's intended by pivot 2. That's
probably a physics thing, character physics thing.
Yeah. That's kind of atmospheric.
Oh, she got 2 at once.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's pretty funny.
Wait, does that mean that one of the portals didn't get the data it needed?
Oh, it'll be waiting for me. Yeah, that's right. I'll still be carrying the right data though. So what happens when you make it's not as stupid as that the first person to walk in there owns the pocket.
Okay.
So when the pocket is actually made, this pocket data that remembers, for example, the player who made it, gets stored, and it's actually stashed inside the portal. 4 at once. How is that possible? We saw 2. And then that information is passed by whoever walks through the portal, so it'll get the right information even if it's only getting initialized now.
I think that's a very clever way of doing it. At first, I thought that sounds kind of weird, passing thing between teleports, but I like it.
Yeah, I guess it has the virtue of working. I'm not sure. What was I saying before that? I lost my train of thought. Oh, permissions. Yeah, do we want... okay, so obviously it's one use you might have of these pockets is to write stuff on the boards that you want to keep there, right? Like you're working on something. So you don't really want other people to come in and erase it all, for example. On the other hand, it's also nice for people to be able to leave a message. So I don't think we want to necessarily shut down... Oh yeah, go ahead. Oh, you're typing it there, okay. Yeah, that's certainly possible.
Oh, that's a good use.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know if it would be syncing so much as just like loading the board from one pocket into another.
You could literally just get the key. I guess there's no way to do that without code, but yeah, it would be fairly straightforward. Indeed. Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, what were we saying about permissions?
Right, so I think it would be appropriate if the owner of the pocket can determine for themselves whether they want arbitrary people to be able to come in here and leave messages, or whether they want to have some kind of certainty about their stuff remaining there if they write it on the boards. So that means I need to change a bit the way the admin code works. So at the moment it's just looking for permissions in the usual way, but in here Maddie doesn't have any more permissions than she does in the Rising Sea. So
you could also do per board permissions. Because then you could reserve some for yourself, but then have other random people write on other boards.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think you don't. So you couldn't type this at the moment. Actually, I forgot the day-night cycle was still on, but I think it's not too distracting. So if we look at the admin commands as they currently are, I think it's associating... Well, let me see. The problem is that there's one data store for all the pockets, right? So the admin commands have to be stored in a slightly different way to how they're currently remembering things. Right, so this is literally all it's doing at the moment. There's just a single data store to which permissions are stored that apply across the entire experience, including all the pockets inside it. So probably pockets need to maybe do their own thing, or this needs to be... Yeah, I guess you were suggesting, Maddie, revisiting this with a third-party admin commands library. Maybe that's a reasonable thing, although maybe we do need to be able to set this per pocket, which means perhaps perhaps telling the admin commands which key to use when they're loaded. And by default they would use this, but you can give them a separate key, in which case, yeah, maybe let's try that right now.
I think you'd probably want to be able to set permissions in one place and have that cascade to all the pockets you own, but then like also be able to override them on a per pocket basis.
Group. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, what do you have in mind exactly? I mean, obviously there's thinking of the way Roblox groups work and permissions there, but
Don't groups cost money to make?
oh yeah, they do too. So there is yeah, you're talking about CMDR. Right. So this is already a thing in the admin commands, is set group. Set Roblox group, yeah. So this loads the permissions from a Roblox group. So if we just make these admin commands as so the default thing to do, and I could do this right now, it wouldn't be complicated, is to have per maybe, as you were saying, Ethan, you probably maybe want it per user so that the permissions apply to all the pockets for that user, but maybe you want some to be different than others. That's a bit complicated to expose.
Yeah, it is. I think to start, maybe just do it per user.
But it's kind of not obvious because you'll be in a particular pocket when you type the commands into the chat to manipulate the permissions, right? So I think once you have that ability, the default expectation would be that it modifies the permissions for the pocket.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe let's just start with that. So then you would automatically be an admin with respect to the creator would be an admin with respect to that per pocket permission setup. And then only people that have scribe permissions according to your local permissions would be able to, so that's what's currently used to determine whether you can open a pocket, whether you have scribe permissions or not. So that would be a way of limiting who can make sub-pockets of your pocket. All right. Yeah, I just have to think about how to... Currently the admin commands I just get initialized whenever these chat modules do. I'd have to change the order of initialization in order to be able to pass in some information about what key to use. So maybe that's a bit tedious and uninteresting to do live right now. Okay, what else? Send link and code call.
Wait, I think I covered how to do that in my tutorial for Commander.
What's your opinion on it? Obviously you think it's good if you made a tutorial about it.
I've actually never used it. I made a tutorial because I was annoyed that it wasn't documented well. But I've never used it in the game. It does have some nice features though, like autocomplete.
Oh, so that's for admin commands typed into the chat, autocomplete?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't use the chat. It uses just a UI.
I see.
Yeah, command bar. But I don't think replacing your admin commands is like a big deal right now.
Yeah, I think for the moment it's maybe okay, although I'm not certainly not beautiful. Okay, but are there other aspects of so obviously the the creation and management of pockets is going to be much richer once the interface that you guys have been designing works. But how can this be more useful in deciding what directions are good ones in terms of making pockets work?
I'm not really sure. What you built is kind of seems like exactly what we need. I'm not sure what else it needs.
I guess the big problem at the moment is I don't really want to promise to people that this is permanent, this arrangement of pockets here, right? So, for example, who knows if Kenneth will ever use this, and if he's not using it for a month, then it probably shouldn't stay there. But if it doesn't stay there, well, whatever criteria we're using to determine that, automatically he'll be pretty pissed if he can never access the stuff in there, if there is stuff in there. So we do, I think, need more of a system for restoring pockets if they drop off this thing, or I think you know what I mean, right? So there's this is fine for making them, entering them, but it's
so maybe you keep track of when it was created, or maybe when the last time was that somebody used that portal, and if it realizes that it's been a month or something, it unlinks it from that part. But then the next time, if it's unlinked, you could relink it again and access the same portal, or access the same pocket.
Right, so the first portal you make after it's delinked is just the one that got delinked?
Yeah, like that just is your portal that you access through TRS, even though that's your pocket. Even though the portal might be unlinked, you could relink it.
Okay, so that works as long as you're limited to one portal, one pocket, right? Because then it's unique.
Yeah.
It's actually a virtue to being limited to one, I guess, right? So maybe that. I guess
I don't think it's a big.
Sorry.
I don't think it's a big problem either, because you go one layer deeper and then you get 10 options.
That's right. Yeah. So maybe if you're in a pocket that you created, then your pockets never fade out over time, right? They're just permanent.
Yeah.
But if you're sort of a guest and you make a pocket, then it has a timeout, but it can be restored by, what if it's full? What if you've got a super important piece of work in a pocket, you don't come to it for a month, it goes off this list, other people fill them up.
Oh. You just build another one. I mean, that would involve like the building system and saving that we discussed.
Yeah, I don't know what the right way to do that is. You must already have one in here, do you? Oh yeah, there it is.
I think of it so the TRS kind of acting as the hub. I think it makes sense for the hub to have to like unlink portals, just given how many there are. But I don't know if there's a need to unlink them within a user's pocket.
Yeah.
Or like you could manually link them and unlink them as you please. Like if you need to make space for somebody, you unlink something else.
Right. Yeah, I guess suppose as at the moment where anybody with scribe permissions can make a portal anywhere, you could imagine them getting pretty full, and then you're irritated that you can't open one yourself, for example. I guess being able to explicitly... Okay, so suppose we add a little button that's only visible to the creator that lets you delink a portal from a pocket. Then what if the person wants the stuff in that pocket back? I suppose there could be some area up in the top level where orphaned pockets live. Right, where you could I don't know.
I guess you would need like like from Maddie's mockup, you can access your portals through a UI and just kind of link them anywhere you want.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Maybe maybe in addition to this kind of setup, there's a couple of portals somewhere that are never full, more like what we discussed last time when we were looking at your diagrams and mock-ups, right, where you can do as you suggested and put something from your saved list of pockets into that portal. And so it's sort of almost always guaranteed to be free. What about moving? I mean, at the moment, you can only access a pocket through the pocket in which it was made, right? So if I'm in here, then these pockets link off, the pockets inside here link off this pocket, and I have no other way of accessing them except by walking over here and going into them. That's not necessarily the case. As long as I have the place ID and the access code, I can access it from anywhere. So maybe the UI can help you to both put down orphaned pockets and, well, yeah, so maybe the UI allows you to walk up to a pocket you've made, delink it, in which case it's now sort of, in your, whatever, something you carry around that's got a... So then you could go and put it somewhere else in some other pocket in their stack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I guess the stack arrangement also wasn't very deeply thought through. It's just a piece of architecture that we had sitting around. I guess it's okay. It's a little bit... I think I like better the arrangement that you were sketching with the islands and portals and stuff. It's more visually distinctive, the different portals. Here it's just kind of the name and the position on the thing. Once you go down a few levels, it's kind of very difficult to have any association to that. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, this one has the tree gun in it. Okay, I guess that's probably a good place to wrap. These aren't permanent. We could do that too. I did think about having some pockets where it would store in the data store, this kind of thing, which is I guess a kind of dummies version of the build system, right?
I think that'd be neat.
As long as there's a way to erase it. Okay. Maybe we'll leave it at that for code.